I came to a place where I believe that under the law, resentencing is appropriate.
A dramatic move by L.A. County District Attorney in a notorious Beverly Hills double murder case. Tonight, he's pushing for resentencing of the Menendez brothers who admit they killed their parents decades ago. The DA, though, believes they paid their debt to society. This decision is facing pushback.
Hoping that it will garner him votes. And no decision in the criminal justice system should be made based on a politically driven motive.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome to West Coast Wrap. I'm Alex Savage. L.A. County DA George Gascon plans to go to court tomorrow to ask that Erik and Lyle Menendez be resentenced. And he's expecting some members of his own office will be there to object. As Fox 11's Christina Gonzalez reports tonight, if the DA's petition is granted, it could pave the way for the brothers to be released from prison.
They will be eligible for parole immediately.
What LA County DA George Gascon is asking for the Menendez brothers who have been serving life sentences without the possibility of parole for the 1989 murders of their parents, Kitty and Jose Menendez, in Beverly Hills. Gascon saying the brothers' claims of sexual abuse by their father should have been admitted into trial testimony.
There is no excuse for murder, and I will never imply that what we're doing here is to excuse that behavior. But I understand also how sometimes people get desperate.
He was flanked by family members who have been fighting for the brothers' release.
This decision is not just a legal matter. It is a recognition of the abuse my cousins endured.
Other family not here disagreeing.
He believes that his nephew should stay in prison.
The attorney representing one of Kitty Menendez's brothers, Milton Anderson, saying Gascon's decision is based on the upcoming election.
He's hoping that it will garner him votes. And no decision in the criminal justice system should be made based on a politically driven motive.
Gascon's response?
There's nothing political about this. We have resentenced over 300 people, including 28 for murder. And we will continue to resentence people in the future. And that's all I can tell you.
But DA, question, but
yes, sir. Excuse me,
re-election
please. You're interrupting.
Everyone's interrupting. I'm just wondering how your bid for election impacted.
Would you
your
please
decision.
stop? I am not going to talk about re-election, okay?
But already coming out against his decision, the Association of Deputy District Attorneys for LA County. You've heard the Beverly Hills Police Department. They investigated the case. They said they weren't even consulted on this. And of course, a man running against Gascon, Nathan Hockman, saying the DA is scrambling to grab headlines. What happens now is they go to the judge tomorrow and they try to get a court date, and they're hoping to get it within the next 30 days. So they could be home, if not by Thanksgiving, possibly for Christmas. We'll keep you updated. In downtown Los Angeles, I'm Christina Gonzalez, Fox 11 News.
All right, joining us live tonight to offer some more insight on this push for resentencing is KTVU legal analyst Michael Cardoza. Michael, do we have you? Michael, good to have you on and get your perspective here tonight. Talk about what the next steps are here. What still has to happen before the Menendez brothers could actually be released from prison?
Well, what the DA is doing is he's going to ask the court to set aside the conviction for life without possibility of parole and instead resentence the Menendez brothers to 50 to life. 2 murders. They used a weapon. Each is getting 50 to life if Gascon's ask is granted by the judge. But that doesn't mean they're going to get out right away. If the judge does do that, then it will have to go before the parole board, and they will make the ultimate decision. And the reason, if it goes from LWOP to 50 to life, what happens then is, then the defense will say, well, it's a youthful offender. They were 19 and 21 when they committed these murders. So that makes them eligible for parole right away.
Yeah, obviously, though, a lot of hurdles still to clear for the Menendez brothers before this is a done deal. Let me ask you about what we sort of heard there during this news conference today. Obviously, DA Gascon has talked about a split within his own office over this decision, saying that maybe some members of his office would appear tomorrow to oppose resentencing. And we also see some family members in the Menendez family who opposed this move as well. How does the judge in this case take all of that into consideration when deciding whether or not to resentence the Menendez brothers?
Well, he doesn't take into consideration the fact that this might be political on behalf of Gascon. That's one thing that they talked about. Remember, he's got 50 percentage points behind in his trying to get elected for DA. So a lot of people are saying this is a political move on his part, trying to reach out to get people to vote for him. As for the DAs that are against him, his office in LA, and I was a DA in LA, that's where I started my career. It was a great office, and it was an office that was in unison. Now it's in shambles, apparently, under Gascon. It's unheard of for people that work for you to go into court and say, we don't agree with our boss's decision. We absolutely don't. Keep these gentlemen in prison because of the viciousness of these killings. The judge will take that into consideration, what these DAs on the other side of Gascon are saying, and then he will look at the rest of the evidence that's presented at this hearing.
Yeah, and we talk about the new evidence here. There's this letter that has obviously surfaced here recently in which we hear about evidence of sexual abuse by the father of the Menendez brothers here. Well, what's your sense about, do you believe that if the jury in their second trial had heard evidence of sexual abuse, that they would have reached potentially a different verdict and potentially convicted them of manslaughter?
You know, I wish I had a crystal ball to answer that. I mean, it's a great question. You know, I really don't know. It may have affected some of the jurors, but also remember, in this case, there's some evidence that the brothers went to family members and asked them to lie and to say that they knew about the sexual abuse. So the other side of the coin, these DAs are going into court that are saying keep them in prison, are saying, wait a minute, if you were really abused, why are you asking family members to lie for you? So that's going to be interesting if that's presented to the court. I know the public, Alex, is, at least some of them, are very in favor of them getting out because of the Netflix series, the docuseries, and the documentary that was done. But what a lot of people don't understand is you're not getting the whole picture by watching a documentary. So people get senses of, well, they should let them out, but you don't know everything. And that's why this judge tomorrow will absorb everything that both sides have to say. And I'm astounded that both sides really are DA against DA and defense. So it's interesting, you know, to have that. And it really speaks to me, at least, about the dysfunction in that office in LA.
Yeah, it will be fascinating to see how this plays out moving forward here.
Absolutely.
And obviously a crucial hearing coming up tomorrow in LA. Appreciate your perspective tonight. That is legal analyst Michael Cardoza. Good to have you on, Michael.
You're welcome, Alex. Stay healthy.
Absolutely. Even though the resentencing process is far from over, Lyle and Erik Menendez do appear to be optimistic about being released at some point in the near future. According to TMZ, the brothers are already making plans for life after prison, and some of their fellow inmates are even trying to get their hands on what you could call mementos.
There's sort of, it's almost like a yard sale going on where there are people, other inmates who are sort of putting in dibs for different items from Erik and Lyle that they want to keep as souvenirs, memorabilia, things that I'm sure they think they'll be able to sell should they get out of prison and make money off of it. And you can't blame them. I mean, let's face it, Erik and Lyle Menendez are going to be instant celebrities. You could say they're celebrities already. I mean, there's several documentaries about them.
TMZ also reports Erik Menendez is planning to go live with his wife in Las Vegas if he's released from prison. It remains unclear what Lyle Menendez's plans would be. Police have stepped up patrols around the Beverly Hills home where Jose and Kitty Menendez were killed. Renewed interest in this case appears to be attracting crowds to that house. Officers have taken calls from several neighbors who are upset about an uptick in people walking or driving through the neighborhood. TMZ reports some tour buses have even added this location to their routes. No one lives in that home right now as it undergoes renovations. And you can find extensive coverage of the Menendez case up at our website. That's westcoastwrap.com. Our online coverage includes a timeline of the major developments in the initial investigation, the trials that followed after that, and this current push for resentencing for the Menendez brothers. We move along here and talk about the election. Former President Trump wrapping up a busy day of campaigning in the battleground state of Nevada. A crowd gathered in Las Vegas for a Trump campaign rally that is set to get underway shortly. Here's a live look inside UNLV's Thomas and Mack Arena, where the presidential nominee, the Republican nominee, is expected to take to the podium and speak any moment. The Trump campaign says this event will rally support and recruit volunteers to work with Nevada GOP groups. The former president began this West Coast campaign swing in Tempe, Arizona earlier today. He spent quite a bit of time talking about immigration during a rally held in the border state. Trump criticized the Biden administration's handling of issues at the border, claiming President Biden and Vice President Harris turned the U.S. into a, quote, garbage can.
We're like a garbage can for the world. That's what's happened. That's what's happened to our... We're like a garbage can. You know, it's the first time I've ever said that. And every time I come up and talk about what they've done to our country, I get angrier and angrier. First time I've ever said garbage can. When we win on November 5th, the migrant invasion ends and the restoration of our country begins. We're going to restore our culture.
In Arizona, a man is under arrest tonight accused of setting a mailbox on fire, damaging election ballots that were inside, along with other mail. Fox 10's Lauren Clark reports tonight from Phoenix, where authorities say it appears this case of arson was not politically motivated.
It's awful.
At this Midtown post office near 7th Avenue and Indian School, people can't believe it.
It's not right.
An empty spot where a mailbox used to be after it was intentionally lit on fire.
Pretty appalled.
It all began just before 1 a.m. Phoenix firefighters arrived to a blue drive-up collection box on flames. Among the mail, 20 burned election ballots. Suspecting arson, investigators started collecting evidence.
That video surveillance was obtained. That, along with some other leads, led them to a potential suspect.
Hours later, they arrested 35-year-old Dieter Kloffkorn.
Has a decent history with Phoenix Police Department and the valley surrounding.
Public records reveal a man with the same name and birth date has a slew of past mugshots. When he spoke to detectives, they say he confessed to using a lighter to light up a piece of paper and then threw it into the mailbox.
Assured by the suspect this wasn't. He didn't know what was inside the mailbox. He didn't know if there was ballots or any kind of election elements in there at the time, and that was not his goal. This was not politically motivated. This was not related to the election in any way.
Meanwhile, Mayor Kate Gallego insists that any attempt to interfere with the election will not be tolerated.
Threats are not okay. Some of these intents to intimidate are deeply illegal and will be prosecuted at the full extent of the law.
So what can you do if you dropped off your ballot here? Well, County Recorder Stephen Richer said in a statement you can check your ballot status at beballotready.vote. The site will typically show if it was delivered within 72 hours, and tomorrow is the last day to request a replacement ballot. You can do that at ballot.maricopa.vote. We'll have a link to those websites at fox10phoenix.com. And tampering with a mailbox is a federal crime. It's punishable up to 3 years behind bars and a $250,000 fine. Reporting here in Phoenix, Lauren Clark, Fox 10 News.
Democratic vice presidential nominee Tim Walz is planning to make campaign stops in Arizona and Nevada over this upcoming weekend. His tour of West Coast states will begin Saturday in Arizona. The Harris campaign says he will encourage people across the state to make a plan to vote. Governor Walz is also going to take part in several political events in Las Vegas coming up on Sunday. Thousands of people gathered in the battleground state of Georgia to hear Vice President Harris speak at a rally outside of Atlanta. This was a star-studded event with rock legend Bruce Springsteen, entertainer Tyler Perry, and former President Obama. This is the first time Harris and Obama will be campaigning together.
Barack Obama, I say to you, your friendship and your faith in me and in our campaign means the world. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President.
The polls in Georgia show a tight race between Harris and Trump. Democrats are hoping celebrities will help to mobilize voters. Tomorrow, the vice president will reportedly appear alongside Beyonce for an event in Houston, Texas. Coming up tonight here on West Coast Wrap, a voluntary recall of onions in the middle of a McDonald's E. coli outbreak. Tonight, the California company pulling its produce.
Just 10 miles due west of downtown Los Angeles is this, the beautiful Santa Monica Pier, all lit up in its glory through the thick marine layer. We'll talk about clouds of a different sort invading the West Coast. That's coming up with your West Coast Wrap forecast.
Also coming up tonight, some tense moments for police officers in Arizona caught on camera. We'll break down what investigators say happened before that driver took off even after being tased. A California company has issued a voluntary recall amid the deadly E. coli outbreak linked to McDonald's. Taylor Farms, which is based in Monterey County, is recalling its raw onions after preliminary data from the FDA said onions are a likely source of contamination in the outbreak. While McDonald's confirmed Taylor Farms is the supplier of sliced onions removed from affected stores, the FDA has not implicated Taylor Farms in the outbreak. McDonald's E. coli outbreak has now sickened nearly 50 people across 10 different states, and that includes Oregon, Utah, Montana, Wyoming, and Colorado. One person has died in the state of Colorado. And McDonald's has stopped selling its Quarter Pounder hamburgers in all 10 of those states. It's also removed slivered onions from those restaurants as well. The Quarter Pounder is also off the menu in Nevada and New Mexico as a precaution, although there have been no reported E. coli cases in those states. A Colorado man is the first person to sue McDonald's over this outbreak. According to that suit, Eric Stelly got sick after eating at a McDonald's in Greeley, which is south of Fort Collins. His attorney says he's still recovering from an E. coli infection, and more lawsuits are likely to come. We did reach out to McDonald's to comment on this suit, and we're waiting for a response. Meantime, a few other fast food chains are pulling onions off of their menus as a precaution. Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, and KFC restaurants across the U.S. removed fresh onions from some locations today. All of those restaurants operate under the Yum Brands company. Yum Brands at this point is not offering any specifics on where this action is being taken. An update tonight on the Boeing strike in Washington. Tonight, thousands of machinists are heading back to picket lines after rejecting Boeing's offer, which included a 35% raise over 4 years and a $7,000 bonus. The union wants a 40% raise and a return to the pension plan that Boeing cut back in 2014.
The least they could do is bring the pension back. So, yeah, that's a big point for me. And the wage increase could be higher.
Of course, I want to go back to work, but if it takes more time, then I'm willing to fight for it.
33,000 machinists are now approaching their 7th week of this work stoppage. We shift now to talk about the weather across the West, and we are tracking a powerful hurricane in the eastern part of the Pacific Ocean. You can see the satellite images here on the right of your screen. You can see Christie swirling hundreds of miles off the coast of Mexico. It has now intensified into a Category 5 storm. It did that earlier this afternoon. For more, let's bring in KTVU meteorologist Roberta Gonzalez. And Roberta, you can tell us what we can expect from Christie and how this storm potentially could affect the West Coast in the coming days.
You betcha, Alex. Thank you very much. And first off, Christie has a past. We had Tropical Storm Nadine. It raced across Belize, and then it coupled up with this tropical storm, and together merged to form Hurricane Christie. And yes, it blew up this afternoon to a Category 5 hurricane. Now, as it continues to wobble to the west at 16, it's lost a little bit of its punch as far as speed is concerned. It's gained momentum up to 160-mile-per-hour winds at this time. But instead of making a threat on Hawaii, it's taken a northerly turn. Now, I got to tell you, I haven't talked about a hurricane making impact on the West Coast since Hillary of August 2023, so we're monitoring this very carefully. You have to keep in mind a hurricane is is generally about 300 miles wide, and it can toss out a cloud shield at least 400 miles. So you could see by Saturday morning, late morning, we already have the high, thin tropical clouds. It's already moving across San Diego into Monterey Bay, in the Bay Area as well, and lifting towards the Tahoe area. No precipitation, just a rise in the relative humidity, and again, this cloud deck. And then we have this cold front to the north, and it's going to push back that stratus. And this is what occurs. No rain from that hurricane as it is downsized. Again, we'll just have some tropical clouds across California, but this is bona fide rain showers from a cold front. And it kind of sits over the Pacific Northwest until about Sunday when it moves into the Idaho area. Right around the Clearwater Mountain Range, we have Pilot Knob, sits about 7,000 feet in elevation. Could see some sleet or light dusting of snow. Otherwise, only the northwestern section of the state of California gets brushed with some precipitation, maybe just outside of far reaches of the San Francisco Bay Area. So we'll start off with cloud deck in San Francisco, turning partly cloudy. Gorgeous Los Angeles, 90s in Phoenix. Boy, temperatures currently 54 degrees in Reno, 79 in Las Vegas. Temperatures today did top off at 76 degrees in Fresno, and at the state capitol shy of 80. Temperatures today, Seattle 55, and that's where you should be for this time of the year, seasonal day. The Bay Area, average high 69. San Francisco saw 73 degrees, and Phoenix, you're still hot. Average high now is 86 instead. 96 degrees. Make it a great night, everyone.
All right, you do the same, Roberta. Thank you. Coming up here on West Coast Wrap tonight, cameras rolling as police officers pulled out a taser on a driver in Arizona. Coming up, the traumatic struggle that had that driver leaving the scene. Also, a rare sight in Colorado, an escaped kangaroo on the loose. See what it took to get the animal to safety. In Washington, the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office charged a teenager with murder today for that mass shooting that killed 5 members of his family. It happened in Fall City, outside Seattle, early Monday. Charging documents say that teenager called 911 just before 5 a.m., telling dispatchers someone shot his entire family. Documents also allege the boy tried to accuse one of his brothers of committing the crime. One of the siblings who survived contradicted that statement. Officers in Tempe, Arizona struggled with a driver during this confrontation that was caught on camera on Tuesday. Officers say they found a man slumped over the steering wheel of an SUV. After those officers opened the door, the driver began ramming police vehicles. Officers tased the man, who was somehow able to drive away. Police say that driver was later arrested. Finally, tonight we have a look at how police officers turned into Kangaroo Wranglers in Colorado. The Durango Police Department posted this video to social media this week showing officers trying to rescue a kangaroo that escaped from its home. The animal is someone's pet in that area. The pet's owner did join with officers as the kangaroo hopped all around the neighborhood. After wrangling the animal successfully, officers joked that they are seriously reconsidering cargo. Great work by them to get that kangaroo to safety. That does it for West Coast Wrap tonight. We appreciate you watching as always. Have a great night.